Hi, guys. So let's dive into some more stuff about PPP Loan 2 and some changes that have happened with PPP just period. So one of the big changes is the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant. So a lot of people aren't talking about this, but the change that happened is now businesses are allowed to apply for both PPP and the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant, both. So initially you could only get the grant and then you couldn't get any PPP. Now you're allowed to get both, and that's a huge change. What is the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant? If you're a small business owner, right, and you are a live venue operator or promoter, club promoter, if you're a club promoter, theatrical producer, all of these things, motion picture operator, if you fall into any of these categories, man, this is a grant with free money. It gives you a lot of money. You actually can get up to 45% of your 2019 gross earned revenue, up to $10 million. So that is incredible. If especially if you made a good bit of money as a promoter and then now you've taken a loss. It also tells you how to apply. It tells you first priority or people who suffered 90% or greater. And then it goes into what you can use the funds with, which is similar to PPP: payroll costs, rent payments, utility payments, things like that. So there's a lot that you can even use it for advertising, production, transportation, all kind of things um, that you can use it for. The thing is, this is free money, guys. And so if you're a club promoter or a live venue operator, or you owned a club, or you're in that industry, a motion picture operator, whatever, museum operator, zoos, aquariums, live performing arts organization, talent representative, talent agent, you qualify for this grant and PPP now. So that's a big change. Second, draws. So everybody who may qualify, people ask me that all the time. So if you've gotten a first draw, and you will or have used, you can apply. Meaning you do not need to use all of the first PPP loan funds to get the second PPP loan. Say that again. You don't have to use all the first loans to apply for the second. Get your second application in now. No more than 300 employees, and you can demonstrate a 25% reduction. As I stated earlier in the PowerPoint, the 25% reduction in gross receipts is between quarters or year over year. Going into a more in-depth analysis of the 25% reduction, because a lot of people get hung up on this, okay? What documentation is the lender really going to require? So here's a more in-depth answer. A person posed this question to the SBA: what documentation do I need to provide to corroborate that my entity has sustained a 25% reduction? And here's the answer. You can do three things: a quarterly financial statement for the entity. And get this, if the financial statements are not audited by a CPA, this is a certified public accountant firm, then you will need to sign and date the first page of the financial statement and initial all other pages attesting to their accuracy. If you don't do this, your application can be declined. So a lot of people don't understand that. If it's not an audited financial statement, you must sign and date the first page and initial all the other pages, or you can have your application rejected and you'll be sitting there wondering why. Okay? So if and make sure that you have the line item labeled gross receipts. If it's not labeled gross receipts, if it's labeled gross sales, if it's labeled something else, the SBA will be confused and the lender may reject it. So make sure you label it gross receipts so they know exactly what you're comparing the 25% reduction of. The next thing is quarterly or monthly bank statements. I don't recommend this option, but I'll go through this option. The applicant must annotate, if it is not clear, which deposits listed on the bank statement constitute gross receipts. Example being payments for purchases of goods and services, and which do not capital infusions. Listen, you're going to have to sit there and give them all of these bank statements and clearly mark on the bank statements all of the consistent deposits that were considered business deposits, all of the stuff on the bank statement that's not dealing with the business, and then compare that, quarter over quarter. That's a lot of work and it can be confusing. And the lender might say, we didn't really see the 25% reduction unless everything is just clearly annotated. So I wouldn't recommend this option, but it is an option. The last thing is the IRS income tax filing. This is by far the easiest option. However, a lot of people didn't file taxes on their business, just being honest. So if you do happen to have this option, this will be really easy because the only thing you have to do is take your 2019 business filed return and compare it over a draft 2020. Let me say that again. Filed 2019 over a draft 2020. 2020 doesn't have to be filed. to actually compare the loss. Okay, so you can do a draft return that's not your final. When you file your final, that'll be at a later date and it'll probably be something different, but you can present a draft return against your 2019 filed return to show the reduction. And a lot of people, want to go in depth to what line item on the return will be compared. In simple, line 7 on the Schedule C on the tax return from 2019 will be compared over line 7 on the 2020 tax return. That is the simple answer. And that will get you the 25% reduction if you compare those two numbers. Going through more in-depth analysis of the forgiveness. This is also a question I get a lot. So let's talk about forgiveness. You cannot have the loan forgiven before 8 weeks, right? 8 weeks is the minimum. Okay, so from the time your closing documents came and the funds were dispersed, and 8 weeks from then, that is when you can actually submit. But you can start the application. It's good to start the application because you want to know what the lender is going to require well before you actually get to forgiveness, so you know that you can get it forgiven. So to get it forgiven, you have to show that employee and compensation levels were maintained in the same manner as required for the first draw. You have to show that loan proceeds were spent on payroll costs and eligible expenses, and at least 60% of proceeds were spent on payroll costs. So pay yourself a check. If you told the SBA you made $8,333 a month, divide that by 4 and pay yourself weekly, or divide it by 2 and pay yourself every 2 weeks. Literally write out a check that says payroll. Put the PPP funds in a separate account by itself, write out the checks, pay yourself. If you have someone that has done this PPP loan for you, such as my firm, we take a percentage of the loan. You will need an invoice from that individual or from that firm. Why? Because that is considered a qualified operating expense. So if you've used some of the PPP funds to pay someone that helped you do this application, you have to account for where every dime went on the forgiveness, okay? All of my clients got issued an invoice from my firm so that they could demonstrate that that percentage went to operational expenses for the business because we're an accounting firm. If the person who did your PPP helped you and they took a percentage of your funds and they did not give you any sort of documentation, you're going to need it for forgiveness. And they're not telling you that, and that's shame on them. So you're going to need to account for every dollar, and you're going to need a receipt for every dollar. So anytime you spend money of PPP for any business reason, or you write yourself out a check, you will need the canceled checks, and you will need every invoice and every receipt. So get a file going, take pictures, upload them, put them in a file, have it all ready to go for when you do your forgiveness application. The point of this money, guys, is to not pay it back, okay? So just talking about that. This also goes into loans that are over 150K, but I won't get into that too much. You can go on the SBA website and pull this form up and find more information if you have a larger loan. But one of the things they're also saying is if you're an NAICS code 72, right? NAICS 72, meaning you are a hospitality, restaurant, food service industry, you qualify for 3.5 times the PPP loan. However, you're still capped as a sole proprietor without any employees at 20,832. But if you have employees, you're still capped at 2 million. You just can qualify up to 3.5 times versus 2.5 times, if that makes sense. So if you were going to qualify for 7,000 PPP because you're a 72 NAICS, you get to qualify for more, but you're still at the same ceiling level as everybody else. So you don't get any more money, you just can get to the ceiling faster with less gross sales. Okay, the application deadline is still March 31st. The update is that the House has passed the bill to extend PPP overwhelmingly 415 to 3. So they loved it. It was bipartisan. They passed it. It's now in the Senate. I don't know when the Senate will go ahead and pass it, but we're hoping for the extension so that everyone can get funded. Because if you're got a second draw application in right now, your chances of getting funded are very low because they're prioritizing the first PPP loans. And the last thing I'll touch on is the E-Tran system. It's called the Capital Access Financial System. This is the SBA E-Tran system. You're wondering, has my loan been approved? have my funds been dispersed? This system will tell you the status of any SBA loan that you have out there. And if it's not there, there's a contact us form in the corner. You sign up by saying not enrolled, put in your information, you'll answer questions about yourself, and it'll get you in the system. No one's telling you this information. This is the E-Trans system, again, where you can see your SBA loan information right here. And if you want to contact the SBA about your loan, as long as you already have your E-Tran number, a lot of lenders give that to you. You can actually put that in. If not, give them your information and they'll be able to help you. It's very hard to get someone on the phone, so this is another way to check on the status of, have you gotten funds dispersed? If you think somebody took your funds, or you're trying to see the status of an application or something like that, this system will give you access to any loan you have pending or already dispersed with the SBA. So this is the E-Trans system. Here's the web address. And I thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. If you want to reach out to me with questions or to hire my firm, the information is in the comments. In the description of the video below. I have disabled comments due to rampant spam on my YouTube account. And so I don't want any spammers on my account. So I've just disabled the comments, period. So you guys can hit me up directly. All right. And you guys have a good one.